In honor of this movie having a talking teddy bear, I decided to bring out my own. So, little buddy, what did you think?
You, man.
Huh? What is up, everybody? RandomRandomMan here, bringing you my review for Ted 2, which stars Mark Wahlberg, Seth MacFarlane, Amanda Seyfried, Jessica Barth, Giovanni Ribisi, and Morgan Freeman, and is directed by Seth MacFarlane. Now, the plot follows John Bennett, played by Mark Wahlberg, and his walking, talking teddy bear named Ted, played by Seth MacFarlane, as after Ted's marriage to his wife Tammy Lynn, played by Jessica Barth, is annulled by the government, John and Ted take this issue to court, and with the help of their lawyer, Samantha, played by Amanda Seyfried, they fight for Ted's human and civil rights. I'm actually a fan of Seth MacFarlane's work. I find myself to be a big fan of Family Guy, more so with the earlier seasons, despite the fact that I find myself to be a bigger fanatic of American Dad, as that show has gotten better and better. And this also spills over to Seth MacFarlane's directorial debut with the original Ted back in 2012, as I found it to be a very good comedy, and I really liked it back when it first came out. Now, I can't really say much for A Million Ways to Die in the West from last year, as I've never seen it, but frankly, I haven't heard that many good things about it. So now we have Ted 2, as I've been really looking forward to this film. But did I find it as good or as funny as the original Ted? Let's run down the whole thing. Mark Wahlberg and Seth MacFarlane have not lost 1 ounce on what makes their characters, John and Ted, so hysterical. These two have excellent chemistry with one another. You really believe that these two are best friends ever since Wahlberg's character as a child in the first film wished this teddy bear to come to life. These two are just fantastic with one another. Now, I was disappointed to see that Mila Kunis' character Lori did not return for this film, and yes, there is an explanation as to why she's not here, but I find that Amanda Seyfried's Samantha is a very nice replacement for Lori, even if I feel that Mila Kunis is sorely missed here, as she was one reason as to why the original was so funny for me. Jessica Barth reprises her role as the white trashy wife of Ted, Tammy Lynn, and she does a serviceable job for the most part, I guess, as her character really wasn't given much depth in the first film, and that doesn't necessarily apply here as well, so I'll give her character that. Now, Giovanni Ribisi reprises his role as Donnie, the stalker character from the first movie, and he's actually given a lot more to do here, but that's not necessarily a good thing. He actually flat out annoyed me at times, and it really bugged me as to why he was such a big part of the story. As, when I get to the plot, he is in this movie through and through, even from some of the parts of the beginning. And now Morgan Freeman. He is barely in this movie. Even though he was advertised in the trailers, he's only in here for probably a good 3 scenes or so. And yeah, he's really not utilized well here. This is just an attempt for more star power. But as for the 3 leads in this film, they are still one reason as to why I think this movie is pretty funny. The plot here is actually one of the biggest problems I do have with this film, because it echoes many beats that the original film had. And that is one thing that a sequel, no less a comedic one, should ever do. There is the plot, of course, of Ted trying to fight for his human and civil rights, as he is seen as property in the eyes of the government and therefore cannot marry his wife. So I think that that was a nice idea, but many of those scenes really weren't that funny to me. And once again, as it does follow the structure of the first film, it does go on to where the last moments of the movie feel like a retread of the first. And for that, I feel the script is a little bit uninspired and gets repetitive throughout some moments of the film. But what do you come for a comedy for? To laugh. And I laughed a lot for the majority of this movie. A lot of the jokes really hit, and some of them are pretty creative, including this one cameo from this very tough action star who is trying to buy cereal at where Ted and his wife works. And that was hilarious. And apparently you're supposed to stay after the credits for this movie, as that little cameo finishes itself after the movie ends. But, you know, me and my friend who saw this movie weren't that smart enough to stay, I guess. But still, that scene had me laughing out loud a whole lot. But there is a lot of comedy here that doesn't work. again, this has to do with some of the moments in this film having to be a retread of the original movie, as there is a fair amount of pornographic jokes and drug jokes. Now, I don't get offended easily by this stuff, but the first time it was introduced, it was hilarious, but as they kept getting repeated over and over again, they lost their steam pretty fast, as well as the movie, as unlike the first film where I didn't notice its 1 hour and 45-minute running time, I noticed this film's running time quite a bit throughout, as it runs at almost 2 hours, about an hour and 55, 10 minutes longer than the first, but not by that much. But when the movie really tried to stretch out its comedic chops whenever it was possible, I noticed the pacing being all over the place at times. But all in all, I still find myself having a very good time with Ted. Were there problems that were glaring for the most part? Yes. But if you want some light, fluffy laughs, this fits the bill, especially if you enjoyed the first film and are a fan of MacFarlane's work. My final thoughts on this movie are that Mark Wahlberg, Seth MacFarlane, and Amanda Seyfried make a pretty nice trio in the comedic landscape that this movie carries, and I did laugh for a fair amount of this movie's running time, with some hysterical jokes here and there, even if they had a tendency to retread the original structure, and the uninspired writing made it grow repetitive. And for these reasons, I do consider the original movie to be superior to this one. But if you are a fan of Seth MacFarlane's work like I am, especially the original Ted, you'll get some enjoyment out of it if you want fluffy laughs and all that jazz, and you just want to go to the movies to have a good time. And that's why I liked it just enough to give it any value. But if you aren't a fan of Seth MacFarlane, stay away. You're not going to stand this movie, especially if you cannot bear to watch raunchy humor on screen. As for me personally, I still thought that this was an okay sequel. My final verdict for Ted 2 is 3 out of 5 stars. Thank you all, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment on what you thought of Ted 2, subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll catch you on the next movie review.